All right, welcome back to another Dream On podcast. I am Travis Gentry.
And I am Julia Gentry.
And we're going to jump right in. So we just started, I think last episode or the episode before, where we ask each other kind of a random question. And it's my turn.
I forgot about
I know
this
you did.
game.
I know you did. So I
was like, man, what is he so excited about today?
I was like, it's my turn. I'll keep it light and fun. So I have 3 questions. No, 3 questions. And it's the first thing that pops in your mind. They're really simple.
Okay.
First question is, what's your favorite book of all time?
Mine.
What's your second book of all time? Your
Mine.
favorite?
The workbook.
What is your...
My third favorite book? The one I'm going to write next.
Good answer. Good answer. So if you don't know, the book is called Dream, I Dare You.
Changed my life.
It is your life.
It
is my life. It is our life. So the second question is, what is your favorite quote? Right now.
Okay,
Go.
Hold on. Your level of dreaming is dependent upon your level of freedom.
Who said that?
John Fitch, but I stole it. I'm now saying it every time. That I actually asked him, hey, you quoted this one time in his sermon. Can I now have it as mine because I feel like I'm going to say it more than you? And so he gave me permission.
He gave it. Was there like a contract or anything that you guys signed?
He just wants royalties.
Verbally?
He wants royalties. So that is it's from John Fitch. He says, your level of dreaming is dependent upon your level of freedom.
That's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. And then the third question is what is a mantra or something that you're telling yourself on a daily basis?
Live free.
Live free.
Which I'm actually wearing a shirt today. Free, 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 free. Yep, live free. Every single day, that's what I say. I find myself, when I get stuck, or when I'm playing small, or when I feel anxiety, or anything, that is my mantra that I say, if I could live free in this moment, what would I do? And it's like an invitation to explore my freedom, to look at making decisions based upon where I'm going, to look at decisions based upon what God has said, and I just do my best to truly hunker down and go, okay, live free. What would it look like?
Be creative.
Be creative.
That's one of our family values.
It is. I thought that was really fun.
So
I actually didn't like that at all.
No, I told you it was going to be light and easy. Doesn't always have to be intense. So today, this is the last of our series that we've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And really this series started because, and if you're listening in order, it was at the launch of a new year because most people are looking at one more resolution to start. And we decided to kind of come at this from a new angle. We believe that actually there's a way to quit the right things in order to be successful. And today's the last part of the series.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's time to move on.
It's time to move on.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to go out with a bang. We're going to go out with a bang because this is the topic of all topics. I guess I'll speak for me first. This is game changing. This was game changing in my life. I'm excited to share more today about the conference, the Dare to Dream conference, because we actually got one of the testimonials back was, of all things in his entire life, in my entire life, understanding your limiting beliefs and the thoughts that hold you bound is life changing. So today we're actually going to talk about quitting the beliefs that limit you.
Nice.
Let's go.
So fun.
So we were talking about fun and light, and now we're going to get in the deep end of the pool today, ladies and gentlemen.
So stop the beliefs that limit you. So how do you know that you have a belief that limits you?
Yeah. I think, so in the book, we actually give you a process. So I'll just kind of cut to the chase. Like if you truly at the end of this or halfway through this podcast, you're like, I'm tired of not knowing this. I know that something's keeping me stuck. I want to dive in. That truly is, no pun intended, what this book is all about, is helping you actually walk through exercises to identify what this is. Mm-hmm. But I would say that how you know you have a limiting belief was actually one of our dreamer friends who called us. This was a couple years ago, and he says, I'm aware enough to know that I'm stuck, but I'm not aware enough to know how to get unstuck. Mm-hmm. So it's like you come up against these patterns that you're like, ooh, I've been here before. Same day, right? Same day, different day, same belief, right? And whether this is kind of wherever I go, there I am. But I'm noticing these patterns in my life that I keep running into. Mm-hmm. That is insight to that you're not only just running up to a thought pattern or an economic problem or right, it's not your partner's fault or your spouse's fault. It's a you thing.
Yep.
That generally is how you know you have limiting beliefs, is that you're hitting a pattern. You're continuing to get stuck. You can't move through. That's a limiting belief.
Yep. And also in T. Harv Ecker's book, Millionaire Mind, he talks about the thermostat.
Okay.
And so you have an internal thermostat, and you run up to that thermostat, so you can start to push past it. You can start to get overheated, and the thermostat kicks in and brings you back down.
Yeah.
And so in life too, you start to gain traction, maybe financially or physically, and then you get to a certain point where it feels uncomfortable. It's new, it's awkward, and then you self-sabotage yourself, and so you bring yourself back to that.
Yeah, and I think that's where actually people would call this another angle, is this idea of self-sabotage, which all of us resonate with. I think that the limiting beliefs is becoming a little bit of a stickier topic where people hear that and they know what that means. But the other idea is that self-sabotaging, because we all know that we're doing it. And so what I hear you saying is that, the world around me might start to shift and change. I might start to make more money. I might start to actually be in committed relationships. People might start to love me. Like actually things, I'm losing weight. Like the things that I want start to happen around me, but the world within me, right? These limiting beliefs within me will ultimately cause me to sabotage the world around me in order to fit the narrative that I hold within. Right? Like I can only grow as much as my internal world. And I think that we live in a world that we are so fixated on making the world around us look good. We have more cars, we have a better outfit, like we marry someone prettier, like we do all the things around us trying to make the world around us better. But the problem is we aren't making the world within us better. And the world within us is what's ultimately shaping the world around us.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and you hear this a lot, especially with like health and fitness and weight. I've lost the weight and I gained the weight. I lost the weight and I gained the weight. And it's like that almost self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit too, of like when you start feeling good and you start looking good and people are like, wow, you look good. You almost like something, not always, but most of the time, you kind of, there again, self-sabotage yourself and you go back to the old habits and patterns because some of it's comfortable.
Totally.
And financially too, like the way I grew up, it was like you get a little ahead and then you go right back down. And you get a little ahead and then something comes up and you go right back down. And so it was like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, it's always happens to me. Like I get ahead and then this always happens.
Well, and I think that the human condition, though I don't think that this is going to help us ever bring heaven to earth, but if we're not mindful, is we want to be right, even about the wrong things.
100%.
So if I have this unconscious, which we'll talk a little bit about this, but if I have this unconscious belief that says I can't have what I want, or I'm not as good as you think that I am and you're going to reject me, I want to be right about that. Even though in theory, on paper, you and I would go, oh, that's gross, that's disgusting, that's never going to serve me. But I have an innate need, right? Safety, security, stability, to be certain about things. And oftentimes it's our beliefs that we want to be certain about. So I will go find proof that goes, see, I told you it'll never be good enough for you. See, I told you that I will never make it, or I'll have some and then lose some and have some and lose. Like we're looking to be right, to kind of like solidify our safety, security, certainty needs.
Yep. And it can also happen, I've seen it, where it's like if you're in an environment, a family environment, a friend environment, and you start to change and you start to get fitter or stop drinking or financially, it's almost like the crab in the bucket. Like if you turn on the water and you stick a crab in there.
A frog,
sorry. Or a crab.
Same.
Maybe a crab will do it too. I don't know. Try a crab.
Science experiment.
The frog will stay there until it boils. Well, if the frog tries to jump out, it gets pulled back. And so, is that right?
No, we have two analogies here.
Yes, we do.
That's amazing. So we have one that if you put a crab in a bucket by itself,
is it a frog?
All the things, if they try to crawl out, all the crabs
you're right. You're absolutely right.
But if you put a frog in a cold bucket of water and then you heat it up over time, it doesn't know that it's happening. Both examples are really good.
So good. So it was a crab frog. So these are very, very
hot, cold water.
Hot, cold water. A lot of crabs, a lot of frogs, a lot going on here.
The goal of this podcast is get out of the bucket.
That's awesome. So yes. So the crabs, if you're in a community of crabs, they will pull you back to the comfort zone.
Hashtag get out of the bucket.
Get out of the bucket. It's hard though. That's what I was thinking in my head. The frog, yes, if you turn on hot water, it stays there until it boils to death.
Well, and then I think what's super interesting about the power of this is not only do we want to be our own self-fulfilling prophecy because we want to be right, now I actually teach, back to the frogs and the crabs, I'm actually teaching the world how to treat me. So now I have this limiting belief that I didn't even know I had, and I'm interacting with you, my friends, everyone around, and I'm actually teaching you how to treat me based upon this limiting belief.
Yeah.
So if I have a limiting belief that says you're going to reject me if I don't do things the right way, then I'm either going to do everything for you. So this kind of looks good, right? Like, because I'm going to do everything for you, and you're used to me doing everything for you. Or I've also seen people play this out to where they constantly get in relationships that they just keep being rejected over and over and over and over again. And so the really weird thing and powerful thing about these limiting beliefs is, number one, we want to be right with them. And number two, we're teaching our world how to treat us based upon these beliefs.
Yep.
And then we wonder why our relationships aren't thriving or aren't passionate, or we can't stay in a committed relationship. Well, it's because we're teaching people that we're okay with it.
Yeah, and it's not right. It's just like you said, it's the way people perceive you, or that you've trained them to look at you. And so when you start to change, it's hard. It's like gravity. It like pulls you back.
Yeah.
But you do a really good job explaining kind of this in the book. So tell us, break that down on how you kind of walk through that process at a high level.
Yeah.
Digging deeper, get the workbook, get the book, but like, describe that process.
Well, I think what's interesting, and I think that there's two things that I think we can look at today, which is the person that's listening that literally goes, I have no idea what my limiting belief would be, but I'm intrigued and I would want to know. And then there's those listeners who go, oh, I know what my limiting belief is, right? I actually posted in our Facebook group, hey, we're getting ready to do a podcast on this. And I had someone that asked, what do you do when you actually see your limiting beliefs happen? So I want to make sure we talk about both of those things.
Okay.
So the first would be, let's address the person who doesn't know what their limiting belief is. I mean, again, you're gonna have to buy the book to get that. But I think where we could start with this is that the awareness to this is the most important part. And so how you know that you have a limiting belief and to start identifying what this limiting belief would be when you get to certain moments, you need to, and they don't go as planned, or you start to identify triggers. We'll call these words triggers. And these are trigger patterns that happen. This is like, I avoid, or I get really angry, or I'm a worrier, or I just procrastinate. Like, we all have these like labels that we would put on ourselves. I would have even said years ago, I'm just a controller, right?
It's like your comfort zone of like what you can identify yourself as.
Oh yeah, on a not good day, if you could identify yourself as three descriptive words that you go pattern. Like, I could almost look back at the course of my last 10 years, 20 years, I would go, yeah, it's kind of the way that I am. So maybe you give your examples real quick and I'll give mine so we can use those. So if I were to ask myself this question, what are 3 ways that I show up that I'm not always proud of that could be a pattern? My words would be controlling, hide. I start to hide or play small, or I go the opposite way and I get angry. And I would say if I look back over the course of my life, those are patterns. I can see me as a kid controlling. I literally would pick out 7 outfits before to go to bed. I would make sure that my curling iron was in the right place, my brush was in the right place, like my backpack was, very controlled. Like, my mom used to give me kudos. She's like, oh my gosh, look how great this is. Nope, that was a child in stress zone.
She was stressed out because of you.
I was stressed out in my mind. Okay, so I could look back then. I could also look at my patterns right now, right? If I'm leading my kids or my family, all of a sudden I start to kind of like get in this control mode, and things need to look a certain way and work a certain way. And if people aren't lining up to that, I start to get really controlling and bossy or angry.
No,
right?
you don't.
Not that I would ever yell, but if I open my mouth and loud words
loud, intense words
of my mouth. So those would be the 3 words that I would use. So
That's
start
good.
there. So what would be your 3 words? And anyone listening, think about 3 words that you would use to describe yourself not on the best day.
Oh, not on the best day?
Yeah.
I was going to say love and joy and adventurous. I would say the one that always stands out is control.
Okay. Give me another one.
That's control.
It's an intervention, actually. We're here today. Okay, great. One word's fine too. Okay, so you're going to look for that pattern, right? That you go, okay, and those are triggers. So this is where we start. We go, okay, what are my patterns in the way that I show up? Those are actually triggers. And I'd like to propose that that is not who you are. It's how you learned to behave in order to protect yourself. So I think a lot of times people are going to come up with these words and they're going to go, well, I'm just, I just avoid, I don't like hard conversations, or I'm a controller, that's just the way that I am, or I'm a people pleaser. No, you learn to do that. So that's step one. Once you can identify that, then we have to go, all right, what's happening in the world around you that feels very true, even though it's not, that's causing you to act this way? So for me, oftentimes if I'm in a state of control or if I'm in a state of anger, I really do start to feel out of control. If I look at the moment, what's going on, I could say, well, nobody's listening to me. My kids aren't listening to me. I might take a risk and fail. They might judge me, right? The people that I'm standing in front of might judge me for having such big dreams. And I feel like in those moments that I'm totally out of control and that the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath me, which is all interlinked to my limiting belief, right? That I'm not as good as you think I am. I'm going to totally lose control, and boom, you're going to reject me. The world's going to fall apart, like the whole thing. That's my greatest limiting belief. So when you look at the way you're showing up and you just simply ask yourself, what do I believe that's potentially happening that I call true, that maybe isn't true, but is serving that emotional trigger, right? That's how you in a really high, quick level, get to your limiting belief.
And then what are some of the words that you use around it in the book, though?
Yeah, so part of it, so let's say we go, okay, well, there's that. Well, this journey of getting from identifying your limiting belief, getting to your limiting belief to living free from your limiting belief, we talk about in the book is these two pieces of awareness and competency as people. I think that our need to control, to be safe and secure and stable in our comfort zone causes us to not live aware. Awareness is my ability to be mindful of myself and what's going on around me, and competency is the skill I need to be better, right? So when we start to learn something new, whether it's learning our limiting beliefs or playing the guitar, I go from this phase of, these are 4 buckets of the conscious competency ladder, which are, I go from being unconsciously incompetent, which is like ignorance is bliss. I don't know that I have a problem.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know that I'm stuck, but like everything.
I don't know
fine.
what I don't know.
I don't know what I don't know.
And I'm not okay with it to a certain level.
Yeah, at some level, I mentally, emotionally speaking, have no idea that I don't know what I don't know. The minute that you listen to this podcast, or the minute you see your patterns, or the minute you pick up a guitar and realize that you don't know how to play, you don't know how to get unstuck, you don't know how to have a deeper relationship with God or yourself or people, now you've gone to the second bucket, which is now I'm consciously incompetent.
That's so good.
It's so hard.
It's so good, though. Understanding the difference and that, like, from here to here of, like, not knowing what I don't know, and then recognizing and knowing that I don't know, like that's like the ground level. So you and I, because we've gone through this process enough, would look at that and go, prime real estate. Now I can do something about it.
Oh, I can do something about it.
Now there's something, a base I can build upon.
Because at least, right, I get what's going on, but here's why most people hate it, myself included, if I'm not conscious. Because again, I can slip back into like not remembering this process and feeling vulnerable as I'm changing, but don't know how to change all things. Most people will go back. Like once you get to this phase and you realize, I don't know how to play the guitar, I don't know how to communicate very well, I have a limiting belief and I have no flipping clue what to do about it, I'm overweight, but now what? That's where the vulnerability, the awareness, all of the heaviness of it kicks in, because I know that I'm stuck. Now I'm aware enough to know I'm stuck, but I'm not aware enough to know how to get unstuck yet. Which is really hard. That's the liminal space, right? Yep. Which is, okay, I'm going to let go of this habit. I'm going to let go of drinking. I'm going to let go of the things that don't serve me. But I haven't grabbed onto any revelation or competency on how to do this.
Yep. So let's give a couple examples. Like I grew up in a family that communication that's not what we did. Like we didn't communicate about a whole lot.
That's fair.
And so, but that's there again, identifying yourself. Well, we are just not good communicators. So that's like being incompetent.
Yeah, that's being unconsciously incompetent and deciding.
And being okay with it.
Yep.
Being, that's not who we are. And then the what word am I trying to say? Recognizing is that, oh, maybe I'm labeling myself of this, but maybe I can be actually a good communicator. And then what does it take?
Yeah.
So that's like the next.
And this is, I think you've actually said this. This was maybe a huge pivotal time in our financial journey, was when you started making comments of, okay, if I want financial freedom or I want X amount in the bank, someone else is doing this. So it's no longer, I can't do this or I can't afford. Yeah. You started to say, how can I do this? How can I afford this?
Yes.
So for most of us, if we look at what we're getting is not that what we want, but we go to the other side of, okay, but is someone else walking in freedom? Is someone else walking as a good communicator? Is someone else landing on the moon? Like, does someone else know how to play the guitar? Yes. Okay. So then it's never about, is it possible? It's, are you willing?
Yeah.
Right. Am I willing to now know? Because it's possible. So how can I be a better communicator? How can I connect in my marriage? It's more of a expansive question versus shutting it off.
The limiting, downplay.
Factor.
There again, and let's talk about that a little bit more because...
Wait, and go back to your example, because I think let's walk that out around the communication of, instead of hunkering down and saying we're not good communicators, walk this out for you in regards to how did you move into being such a great communicator, the one that you are today.
Well, I think exactly what you said. I think it was the awareness of someone else, another family or other people, they communicate. And so how they're getting, solving problems or getting past or like working, you see friction and you're like, there's got to be a better way, like to communicate that problem as opposed to, yelling and I didn't grow up in a house like they yelled and screamed all the time by any means. It was just like, there's got to be a better way to break this down so both parties feel heard.
Yeah.
And so it was like watching other people and then starting to read books and going to seminars. You're like, wow, like that opened up. Okay, now I can't be the victim of, I came from a house of not good communicators, so therefore I'm not a good communicator. No, how do I become the best communicator that I can be?
Okay, great. So this takes us to the next box. So when I get through that phase of I am now consciously incompetent and I decide, I think that's the whole idea. I have to decide that regardless of what I see around me, that I'm willing to do the work within me to get a different result. Then I got to grab onto something else, right? Like in order to get out of liminal space, I have to now grab onto the idea that I'm going to be a great communicator. I'm going to lose 30 pounds, right? I'm going to be incredible at playing the guitar. Then I become consciously competent because I'm practicing skill. So I think I've told this before in a podcast, but I was at the gymnastics studio with the kids the other day and I happened to look up and on big sign it says practice makes permanent. That's the idea here, is that now if I recognize that I have the mindset that goes, no, this is what I want, this is my vision, this is my idea, this is where I'm going, then I need to figure out what is the skill that I need to develop in order to be great at that, right? This is when you get to use the formulas and the 1, 2, 3 step guides and the idea that success leaves clues, reading books, joining mastermind groups, actually investing in the dream that you have. It doesn't just happen, come to find out. It takes push-ups, it takes work, it takes investment of time, money, resources to get there. When I do that and I practice the skill over and over and over again, now I go to what's called this conscious competency, which isn't that it comes natural yet, it's not automatic. I have to actually really focus on playing the guitar. I have to be very present in my conversation with you to make sure I'm not stepping on your toes or leaning into my limiting belief, or I have to be very mindful at the gym because I don't exactly know the next workout. I really have to pay attention to the plan, but at least I'm now developing a skill set that matches my mindset.
Yes.
That's the game changer. Most people think I need skill set and then mindset. No, you need the mindset and then you need the skill set to support it. The combo of those two is what gets you down the path.
Yep. And some of the ones, I just want to throw out some different thoughts or ideas maybe as you're listening to this that I see consistently, or some of the things that, destroy marriages because of their past or what they bring into the marriage per their limiting belief of financially and how they show up of this is how I grew up. And so this is kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Like they set a ceiling. You know, they have a certain thermometer, like what T. Harv Eker says, financially, and so they bring that into the marriage. Same thing with physically. You know, that's the family I grew up in. We're all big boned. You know, like you can blame anything that you want, and time again that's been proven not correct, unless you want it to be correct. But if you want to lose weight, there is a capacity for everybody to lose a certain amount of weight. So whether you grew up in a family that were all bigger, that's fine. But if you change your habits and patterns and have new awarenesses, I guarantee you can lose a certain amount of weight and look a certain way.
Well, and I think it comes down to just the ultimate question then, in order to continue to move through this, is do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Right? Because I could continue to go, yeah, but you don't understand, Travis. You don't get it. You don't know my family. You don't know my background. You don't know my bank account. You don't know. And really, ultimately, the hard truth is, okay, great. You can be right all day long, and you can live a life for the rest of your life that is, quote unquote, right. Or you can be free.
Yep. And the quote that comes to mind is, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
100%. 100%. And the beauty of this is that at first, right, it's hard, really hard to do all of these new practices. It's still hard to follow the plan. It's still hard, because again, you don't feel totally natural until you do. And this is when it's beautiful, because the last bucket is going from a consciously competent to unconsciously competent, which means now I can play that guitar like it's natural. Why? Because I stuck with it. And even to your point, the very beginning, when you asked me that question of, Julia, what are you doing? What's your mantra on a daily basis? My conviction, my give a damn, my can't not is to live free. And over the last 4 years, truly, I'm not exaggerating, day in and day out, sometimes moment by moment, I'm asking myself that question. What does it look like to live free? And there's moments that it does come very naturally. Like, it's not hard to think of the answer. I can tell that there's, right, the path in my brain, there's the spiritual alignment, right? There's even systems in our business that keep me free. Thank goodness for Cammie there, right? Like, she's like, keep Julia free. But then there's new ones and new challenges that I'll run up against. And it's like you start the process all over again to where you're exploring freedom, or you're exploring passion, or you're exploring something new, and you run that thing back again over and over and over again. But I think the enlightenment of it all is knowing that that is a process. You know, like, I didn't know those buckets. And then when you know them, you're like, oh, today I am super consciously incompetent. There is that.
And that's why New Year's resolutions, we talked about on the last podcast, they don't work, 80% of the time, because it's like gung-ho, all out, and not letting yourself go through that process that we're talking about. And then also, it's in your book too, as far as like, you give the example of climbing Mount Everest and acclimating. And it's so fascinating now that I've learned the charts and in stock investing. It actually does, because what stocks are is fear and greed. And so it adjusts based off of fear and greed. And so you can read the charts, and when charts go up quite a bit real fast, they tend to pull back. And if they pull back in a certain way, they're acclimating to go up to the next level. If they go a certain way, you can read them knowing that they're gonna pull back. Probabilities are they're pulling back, not going up. So they go up real fast, they set a base to go up further. But it's human emotion that drives the charts in stock investing. So it's so fascinating what I'm learning there, and how it really translates into life, and how that process is. Physically, financially, relationally, whatever it is, being aware of it, understanding it, knowing you're now still incompetent to it, but now that you have opened the door and saying, okay, now what are the limitless possibilities or beliefs that I can create, knowing that I would 99%, there's someone else that is successful or has the information for you to be successful in that area. So to seek that knowledge out, because it's obviously not a knowledge base that you have yet.
And I think that what's interesting is, you just said this even with the charts, it's what's driving these decisions is the fear and greed, right? And oftentimes most of us would say it's purely human emotion that drives our decisions. That's what most people believe. However, I would love to suggest, I'm not even going to suggest, it's fact. Cognitive behavioral therapy says that our emotions don't just show up on the scenes. Our emotions are actually driven by thoughts and beliefs. So should I be, a great example, I'm doing the charts, right? And I love that. This is why Travis plays his numbers game really well, because he says, numbers don't lie, people do. I'm always like, true story. That's really true. But you say over and over and over again that you have to actually learn. You cannot make decisions in this, I was going to say this game. It's not a game. I totally understand that. The stocks world, but on emotion, right? You have to understand the truth and the facts, okay? If we back up out of emotions, cognitive behavioral therapy says that every thought creates our emotions, which drives our actions, which creates our results, which proves our thoughts to be true.
Yes.
So what's actually behind the emotions, we're allowed to feel fear, allowed to feel greed, allowed to feel angry, allowed to feel control, right? All emotions are created equal, which someone today needs to write this down. All emotions are created equal, which means there's actually not really bad emotions or good emotions. The only
they just are.
They just are, right? Like anger is just information. That's what emotions are. Like, ooh, I feel angry in this moment, or oh, I feel joy in this moment, right? Like neither wrong or right. Generally, why we say they're bad or good is because of what I do after I feel the emotion, right? I feel angry, so I yell, and then I go, see, anger is bad. When I feel joy, I hug, and so I'm like, oh, I like this. No, it's what I decide to do with the emotion, right? This fear, if we even go back to, I'm watching the stocks, I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to lose my money and lose everything, is the thought that's driving the fear that causes me to pull back my money, right? When in theory, if I just believed the truth and I hunkered in and really understood how this works, I would stay in regardless of that fear because I know the truth.
And yes, and it's so fascinating as you were saying this, like all these thoughts are popping in my head. And it's almost the exact opposite of what most people are doing. Because when depending on where the stock is and the time frame that you're looking at, but if it's pulling back and it's cheaper, it goes on sale more if you believe in what you're looking at in the charts. And so it's the same thing that Warren Buffett says. Be greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when people are greedy. And that's so true in life in general too, of like taking that information and saying, okay, like, is this a time that I should have fear and run? Or is this a time that actually this is a really good opportunity for me to progress because everybody is fearful and pulling back?
Okay, so here, this is incredible. This is the most climactic part of the whole podcast, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Okay, so what I think is happening in moments, okay, in hard moments, right? At some level we say time under tension. We say that pressure is a privilege, right? Because in theory, every moment is actually carving out for us character and endurance and perseverance. The Bible's very clear on that, right? It says we will encounter trial and tribulation, but hold fast. Why? Because within these precious moments are what we call freedom moments, okay? So this is a lot to unpack in a 35-minute podcast. The idea, though, is when you notice the triggers, when you notice the fear, the emotion, the negative thoughts, the moment when the world isn't doing what you thought it was going to do, or maybe it is, but you don't know that it's going to be sustainable or anything, that is actually a freedom moment. Because all that moment is asking us is, what do you believe? Do you believe in fear? Do you believe that anger is the way? Do you believe that you need to control? Or do you believe that you can have anything according to what God's word says? Or do you believe, right, my vision is to create uninhibitedly? Or do you believe that who the Son sets free will be free indeed? Like, what do you believe? That's all these moments are asking us, but what most of us are doing is we feel the tension or the pressure and we just divert to old patterns. We go, oh, see, I told you it's not good enough. See, I told you I'm going to lose it all. See, I told you you're going to reject me, as opposed to going, wait a minute, what if this moment was actually giving me an opportunity to anchor into a belief that could set me free? Which then, to your point, is then I need a thought, a truth, not my truth, God's truth. I need a truth that will actually set me free. This is how we do those moments. When the limiting belief happens, I have to grab and anchor into truth, because the byproduct of truth is freedom, which is why this work is so powerful, is that you actually get a vision that says, no way, I will live in a world that we create uninhibitedly.
Yes.
I will live in a world where anything is possible because, right, I know the one who made the beginning from the end. These are anchor statements that are going to help us in these moments actually choose freedom as opposed to being right.
Yep, and most of us show up on a daily basis living unconscious. And that's why we go through and we get angry, or we kind of go through the same patterns and habits. And I'll just give one quick example. Like, there's been times where Malachi, our oldest, will do something and I'm angry. I sit there just for a second and I'm like, why am I angry? What am I angry about? Did he do something, or is there something else that's triggering me that is outside of this situation?
So good.
And so I go internally to make sure that I'm not responding to Malachi that is not just.
Yeah, you're like projecting on him
something that has nothing to do with him. Maybe I need to correct him, but there's a certain way. Maybe I do step back, and I've even said, Malachi, hold on one second. And then I'll go like walk away for a second because I'm like, I'm so angry, and the way I'm going to respond is not, I know it's not the appropriate way because I'm aware of it now.
So good.
And so then I come back and I can respond in the appropriate way, whatever that should be in that situation. But it's like those moments when you, like there again, when you get happy or angry or whatever, like take happy emotion too, not just sad or angry or fearful emotions. Take the joyful, like why am I joyful? What happened, or what am I doing? Or like, so you can recognize that so you can have more of it.
For sure. Well, and again, I think it's interesting because the brain responds to two things, right? Avoid pain and run towards pleasure. And so it's constantly trying to compartmentalize this world. And so it's just easy for it to go on autopilot. This is how beliefs form, is that, man, if I've seen this enough times, good or bad, the brain's like, you know what, let's store that file. Let's put it on automatic so I don't have to consciously be thinking about it because there's too many things happening. So when we do have these moments, and I think your example is great, like I find myself too, if you get angrier than you should in a moment, or you feel more fear in a moment, even though the moment maybe you're like, that's valid, right? Like I should feel a little bit of fear or anxiety or whatever, but you're like, this is a lot. It's because it's intertwined to your own limiting belief of years of that narrative where the brain stored it and stored it and stored it and stored it and stored it. And so all of a sudden you're like, what is this? Therein lies a limiting belief that we, if we're not conscious, will project on our kids, on each other, on the world around us.
On you too. And there's been times where it's like, look at that. When you're getting ready to respond in an angry way.
Just fill in the blank.
Intense fellowship is what we call it. But there's times where I'm literally having a conversation in my head before I say something because I want to respond a certain way because that's how I've done it in the past. But I know it's not the right way because I know the outcome it's going to have. And so it's like this, you start to have these like conversations in your head before you actually start to move forward with it. And then what I've learned is that I have to step back and there's a little bit of pride because I'm like, I want to respond this way because it gives me something. It gives me empowerment or control, or I feel like, I'm going to get something out of this if I respond in a way. But I know ultimately that's not who I am anymore.
So good. And
so I take a step back, and sometimes that pride where you're like, okay, hey Julie, I'm sorry. And you're like, I'm sorry. I need a minute.
Yeah,
I'll walk away.
He does a really good job at that.
But it's like, it's practice though. And I think if you do this in relationships with your kids or a spouse or a coworker or whatever, like how you're responding and getting your energy that is building up, like stop and think about why.
Yes, and this is not just for the other person. So to your point, yes, of course, if you could stop when the moment is happening and just pause, create some margin. And if you can do that, what you're doing is developing that competency. So if anyone's like, yeah, but how do I stop these things from happening? The goal is not necessarily to quote unquote stop the limiting belief from happening. It's to notice it when it does and to move through it based upon who you really are, who God's created you to be, what the vision for your life is. So when we resist the thing, right? Like don't feel anger or don't feel my limiting belief or don't do that. Surrender to the moment, right? Surrender basically means like, I'm going to let go and I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to cling to the truth. And I'm going to do my best to make decisions based upon where I'm going, based upon my conviction, my truth, the word of God, my vision. I'm going to anchor in there. I'm going to slow down because sure, it's going to help the world around us. But what it does is it's making it permanent within you. And that's the powerful thing is that, yep, the world will become a better place and the world will learn how to interact with you better. But it's like it's making it permanent within me, that I can choose freedom, that I can choose joy, that life, that relationships could be safe, that passion could actually be exciting. Like there is just a process that gets us out of the safety, security, stability zone and into the potential zone, right? The actualization zone. And that just takes practice. So yes, the practice is incredible for everyone around you, but it's even more impactful for you, for me, for us.
Yep. 100%.
Oh man.
So good. And we could keep talking about this. And I would highly encourage you, if you're not already connected or join the Facebook community, do so. But this is something that Julia does, and it's like a weekend workshop or a series of like 6 to 8 weeks for 2 to 3 hours at a time. Like, this is not like easy stuff.
It's not like a one-time podcast episode.
Yeah, and you're good and you're aware of everything. This is just planting the seed. And so if you want more information, go to our website too, because Julia does do online events and then she does in-person events too. That really dives deep and unpacks it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so powerful about the community.
Yeah.
Because you all start to talk the same language, and you can start to feed off each other and help each other to grow in whatever area that you're looking to.
Which, to announce, this is very exciting, is that we just did a Dare to Dream conference in Denver, Colorado. But what we did that the public didn't know is we have developed an on-demand experience, which means you get the Dare to Dream conference in the comfort of your own home. So every session that we did live, it's experiential. It walks you through the entire process of not only dreaming, but getting to a place of true freedom. Now you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So I will put the link in the description below, and I will even include a discount code that will get you, yes, ladies and gentlemen, $50 off. But don't tell Cammie. Don't tell Cammie I said that. But I'm going to put
even though she watches this.
I'm going to put a little discount code in the link below so you can get your own Dare to Dream conference in the comfort of your own home.
So thank you for joining us once again on the Dream On podcast, and we will see you soon.